Good morning and welcome to QR5 Cyber News. Well, we have lost our favorite space nerd Peter, who was last seen heading for the airport. I believe we have him live now, at the second annual Australian Space Cyber Forum in Adelaide. The Australian space industry is booming and the security of space, and the cyber defense of the space domain is the subject of today's forum.
That's one, Naomi. Thanks. We're live from Melbourne Airport. We're on our way. A big, exciting day ahead at the second annual Australian Space Cyber Forum, put on by Aurora and Cyber Ops. Absolutely amazing event. Everyone's going to be there. A lot of all the boffins, all the nerds, all the senior leadership of Australian space industry and Australian space defence will be there. So looking forward to catching up with everyone. It's going to be a huge day. And yes, I'm up and about early this morning and catching the flight across to Adelaide. So looking forward to catching up with everyone today. It's going to be a huge day. The Australian space industry is full of innovation and creativity and a lot of strong growth, a lot of leadership coming out of the state of South Australia and Adelaide University of Adelaide there as well. So where a lot of the scientific rigour comes from through the university there. So it's going to be a huge day. Looking forward to the keynotes last year were very, very good. Last year at the first one, the Deputy Premier of South Australia at the time, she's still Deputy Premier, but at the time she had space in her portfolio. It was just handed that over to Treasury now in the recent reshuffle that they did over there. So the South Australian government's very strongly behind it. Of course, as you'd expect, the Australian Federal Government and the Australian Signals Directorate, always usual players in cybersecurity, are deeply involved here as well. So a lot of the leadership will be there. Australia's National Cybersecurity Coordinator, Lieutenant General Michelle McGuinness, will be there, and I believe so. It'll be great to meet her and hear her thoughts on cybersecurity and space defence. So it'll be huge. So you know, this journey started back in 1962 with that guy called, what was his name again? President John F. Kennedy. Yeah, so John Fitzgerald Kennedy at Rice University in 12th of September 1962 gave that, what I believe is the second best speech of all time, behind Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream. But the We Choose to Go to the Moon speech. Today, NASA's Space Launching Center is called the Kennedy Space Center. So, President Kennedy had a huge impact on what was called at the time and still is a space race. So, it's very competitive today as much as it was back then. So, today we look at space and Kennedy, on that day in 1962. So we choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And he was laying down a very important speech as he was looking for extra funding to plough into the NASA's budget, which probably seems like a small amount of cash today, but in 1962 terms, it was a lot of money. So he was going to bat for his dream project to put people on the moon. So. Which he achieved, sadly, after his death. But in 1969, this little young man was standing on a footpath in Stanthorpe, Queensland, looking with a two-way radio, watching the Apollo astronauts come up over the horizon and listening to their crackly voices via shortwave radio in absolute awe and amazement as we engaged, as an amazing awe-inspired public engaged in the early stages of the space race. So that's where my journey kind of began in space, and now obviously in cybersecurity as well, and a lot of STEM work in astronomy over the years. So it's been one of my great passions. So John F. Kennedy started it all, and when he made those famous speech, he said that the conquest of space was worthy of all people. I think he used the term mankind back in that day, but meaning the human race. But today we would say all people is worthy of all people conquest of space. So it's a lofty and significant goal for us to be in space. Some want to go further in space than others, I see these days, but with planned missions to Mars and all these and yachts sailing on the liquid methane lakes of Titan, moon of Saturn, which I think is very fascinating as well. So we still have those aspirations, and the conquest of space is still worthy for us all. And I think from that perspective, we're living up to Kennedy's dream. But he also gave a warning that there is no conflict in space as yet. So his words on that famous day were sort of hinting that we need to be careful, because it could become a contested domain with kinetic war in the future. So when President Trump instituted the Space Force, he, in that announcement, mentioned that space is now a battlefront domain of war as well. So that fear that Kennedy had at that time was kind of fulfilled at that moment when President Trump stepped up to create the Space Force and indicate that it's a contested battlefield now, as much as it is. Lots of satellites looking down, taking pretty pictures. There's a lot of other stuff going on up there. Much of our technology today, of course, from cybersecurity through to our IT networks, every location of every server and every device pretty much has a GPS coordinates of where it is loaded into the config. So we do rely a lot on GPS technology today to get around, to even have this phone and get to the airport today. So it's really quite fascinating, how dependent we are on our GPS technology today, and of course that's all based on satellites that are constantly running over our heads. And we of course have the recent developments of Starlink and other low Earth orbit synchronized mesh sort of space-based architecture, which is a very new thing. So the flight dynamics are kind of broken down into a number of different categories. You have the geostationary ones that fly in synchronization with the rotation of the Earth. You have the polar aligned ones that go sort of up and down, the weather satellites, the L-band communications satellites. You have other high inclination orbits. You have sounding rockets that just go up and sample things and come back. And then obviously if we go beyond low Earth orbit, you need bigger craft that can launch you out to take on the solar system and do slingshot flybys to accelerate the spacecraft and all those kind of things. So space is an absolutely fascinating domain. And in cybersecurity, we have the Earth domain, we have the airside sort of domain, and then we have the space domain. So there are multi-layers to it, and the infrastructure and technology between all those different layers is quite important and really challenging to manage. And I just give you one little example, like the Voyager satellite, which took off, I think in the 70s, just did a software update that went, I think it was 14 billion kilometers outside the solar system and had a latency of some ridiculous latency for the amount of time it took to send the package, software package up and get the confirmation back. And the Voyager 1 spacecraft, which had been off the air for, I believe, some time, was now back on the air because they're able to patch it at such an incredible distance. So what we're seeing in space now is some of the architecture that's up there, that's been there like for decades now. It's still upgradable from the ground. It's still able to be have some very interesting things done to them. So, there's a big debate in Australia at the moment about nuclear power, which is a very interesting debate. And, there are more nuclear power stations or plants powering satellites on Mars than there are currently in Australia with our one medical research reactor. So space has really been a domain which has challenged the physics and the power systems, the fuel mixes that we use to launch, all these kind of things. It's a very interesting domain. So really looking forward today to catching up with some old friends and people I haven't seen for a year. So it's going to be great, and I'd love to spend a bit more time in Adelaide working in the space cyber area, and looking forward to making lots of new friends and getting a few selfies. And if you want a selfie with QR5 and the famous Dish T-shirt and my space shuttle mission patches, I'll be there, and it'll be great to see everyone, and hope you're having a great day. We're going to roll to our outro now. We've got some great cyber news, of course. You can see in the ticker feed there, breaking news out of Queensland, which is where the Australian Schools Cyber Security Challenge was held this week. The Australian Cyber Security Schools Challenge was won by King's School in Parramatta in New South Wales. They down to the final four. Two of the final four were from the same school. So in Mermaid Waters on the Gold Coast. So King's College did very well to take out that tournament. So shout out to Brendan Neal and people at Cyber Pathways who organised that. It was great. Of course, we have Pecan Plus coming up on the 3rd and 4th of August for high school age people, late teens who are stretching their wings in cybersecurity. It's going to be great to have you at Pecan Plus, so you can go to the Edith Cowan University website for the Pecan Plus, and you'll be able to find all the details there. And of course, the Down Under CTF, one of the biggest Australian-led cybersecurity capture the flag competitions. The Down Under CTF, or DUCTF as they call it. It's the battle of the flightless birds, the emus. Emu Exploiter, one of the top teams obviously around Australia, and the Kiwis, and I don't know if there are any cassowaries involved, but feathers will fly even if the birds don't. So they're calling it the battle of the flightless birds. So Australia and New Zealand involved in that one, but people probably from all around the world will join in remotely and enjoy that. But it's going to be a great competition. It's coming up in not this weekend, weekend after. So second weekend in July, and that'll be good. I'm hoping to have my crew there, so that'll be a lot of fun. We've been working on our skills in reverse engineering and binary exploit to lift our tradecraft a little, and we're hoping to jump up a few places on the global leaderboard, which will be good. So anyway, just thought we'd give you this update from Melbourne Airport, where I'm on my way to the second annual Australian Space Cyber Forum in the Adelaide Convention Centre, which I'll be there in about an hour and a half from now. So hope you all have a great day. Had a beautiful sunrise in Melbourne yesterday, so hope you're all up and about and having a great day. Thanks for joining us on QR5 Cyber News. Thanks to Naomi for anchoring the session, and we'll talk soon.